Another reason why a lot of women need to just not date for a while is if you meet a really great guy and you haven't been doing like a lot of this stuff, you're gonna ruin your relationship. You're gonna ruin it. I'm actually convinced if I had met Anthony, oh, look at you, he's hiding behind me. He is so shy sometimes. If I had met him even a year before I did, I would have blown it up. In fact, I almost did while we were dating. And I will tell that story probably on my Patreon. By the way, follow my Patreon. That's where I do lives, share more personal stuff, sometimes France, sometimes healing, sometimes dating, sometimes whatever, writing, creativity. Go check it out. The link is in my caption. Have fun over there. Anyway, you know, the thing that about like romantic relationships that aren't just, you know, like hooking up or just friendships, but, you know, you're merging the two. The thing about that is you can heal a lot in relationship. I've healed so much in relationship because I've done a lot of work before, but none of it gets triggered quite like, you know, like the same stuff does not get triggered in a friendship as it does when I feel way more vulnerable because it's like dealing with, you know, this, you know, and like all my nervous system responses are getting, you know, and the, you know, my hormones are blah, right? And then, you know, she rules with an iron fist, you know? Things just get complicated and it's hard to see clear, right? And then on top of that, even when there's like a foundation of trust and all that stuff, like my stuff, I go nuclear. And the only way I keep it in check is to learn how to pause and call the right people. My mentor or Liz or just someone who knows me really well who's going to tell me the truth. Even if it's not what I want to hear, they're going to tell it to me anyway, and I'm going to respect the help I'm asking for and listen because they hold a microphone to my intuition and not to my ego, not to my trauma responses, but to my intuition. And they're not always right, but they usually say out loud the very thing that I needed to hear, even though I kind of knew. So finding those people is really critical, which is why I really highly encourage people to really find that kind of friendship with someone or a few people so that you don't blow up good relationships. For those of you who are dating, I know a lot of women who follow me are just like, screw that, I don't want to do that. But this could be applied to other things too. Because the same themes that come up in romantic relationships do come up in friendships. It's just, you know, it's a lot of times, especially if you have a lot of trauma and other things that come up, they may not be as nuclear level or maybe more, who knows? Just saying. I have discovered a whole new version of myself in a partnership where this person is this person a lot of times. Like this and this are like, wow. For those who know, I got a new puppet. Man, these things are great. I love it. And so learning how to sit with and take and not just react so much and like knowing when my anger is justified or when it is, you know, is it hysterical? My therapist taught me this. If it's hysterical, it's often historical. It may have nothing to do with this person, or it may be a little bit bigger than it deserves for this situation or whatever. And so learning how to really, if I am like, I'm gonna throw something across the room, that might not have anything to do with him. Or if it does, I need to take a beat and understand what it's really about before I have that conversation. It's because that gaslighting myself thing of being like, no, right? Or also like, I mean, I have so many voices in my head. This one is the one that dominated for a long time, especially growing up as a white woman in the South. Hey, the people-pleasing, passive-aggressive, yes person who just eats endless from men or other women who are bullies, you know, like our grandma, our mom, or, you know, whatever, our friend. And this little girl is full of rage, which is another reason why she is like the Hulk when this mask finally drops, she can be like this. So not just my relationships will I blow up, I will actually be a danger to anyone I have power over. It really benefits everybody for me to like deal with this stuff and have someone who helps me see the truth before I lash out at people I care about, total strangers, whoever. And then I also have this woman, Judge Judy, who has something to say, who is so mean sometimes. I have so many voices in my head. It is a chorus, and knowing who is driving this bus at the moment, you know, like, anyway, IFS therapy really changed my life, learning how to help me like deal with all this stuff and not be like so mean to myself, and also not like project it onto the world and other people unfairly. And the reason why this has been so helpful is because because I had some PTSD. I've had to deal with a lot of PTSD since being married. All this stuff that I hadn't quite dealt with from my past, especially that DV. Oh, it showed up here. Woo! Like, we'll give one quick example before I get into the column. My ex used to make me eat things against my will. And, you know, for anyone who is new to abuse, how can they make you do anything you don't want to do? Well, let me tell you something. When they pitch a fit and control you with their moods, and you know the consequence of not doing the thing that they really want you to do that's so dumb and doesn't matter, but they really want you to do it because that is how they maintain control, is blowing up over the dumbest things, right? So you never know when they're going to go off, because sometimes it's something small, sometimes it's something big. You just always have to expect it. Eating elk soup. Even though I was a vegetarian, eating elk soup was one of the things that was my lowest moment, was just being like watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I was like, this is so dumb. It's not funny. Why are we watching this? Eating elk soup while also stoned. And I didn't even really smoke anymore. I went to kid jail for that. There's a reason why I don't smoke anymore, because I was like, oh, I don't want consequences for that. And I'm just like, wow, literally everything. I hate this movie. I hate what I just smoked, and I hate what I'm eating, but I'm more afraid of his reaction than of doing this, right? So when Anthony is the cook in our family, because I don't cook, I love that for me, and he tried to get me to try something, and I was like, and I try most things, but I was like, no. He's like, come on, babe, just try it. And no, because I just did. I mean, I usually try everything because I try to be open. But I just really didn't want to try this thing. And he was like, come on. And I was like, nah, you know, that had nothing to do with him. That had everything to do with being forced to consume something down my throat out of coercive control. So you get where I'm going here. If you won't realize how much you have not processed until you're in any relationship. I'm sure it comes out in unhealthy ones, but those you're usually in survival mode all the time and are just like, ah, so you never actually feel safe and calm and can process stuff. But when you're in a relationship that's not dramatic and there's no real problems and you feel totally safe, watch out. Oh, that down here is gonna go blah all the time, and you never know when it's gonna happen. You never know when that little ding, 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 ding is gonna go. And all the trauma responses are like, you know, and whatever. It's scary. It's scary. That's actually why I started IFS, because I knew I was gonna ruin my marriage if these trauma responses, if I did not figure out a way to keep them in check. Because I was processing a whole new level of things that I had never had to deal with, because I just didn't date. Like, it's really easy to decenter men when you don't mess with them. Like I've told y'all before, I decentered men before I even knew that I was doing that. I literally just didn't date. And I love that for me. I love that's why I am who I am. And once I started dating, boy, did I learn a lot about myself. And then once I actually started to get into relationships, I felt safe, but especially this one, I didn't realize how much I didn't know about myself. But that's because I have a safe place to process and learn and grow and evolve versus just like all the time, right? Let's get into an example of self-sabotage. Now, just so you know, every column that I go over here, I kind of skim through it because I want to know like what it's about. but I don't really read it because I like to discover all kinds of details and whatever. It takes the fun out of it for me if I've read it too much. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is Dear Carolyn. I really like her column. My husband and I have been married 2.5 years. We have a good marriage, but this winter during a casual conversation in front of the TV, I was fishing for a compliment. That usually doesn't end well. And he responded that he considers me an 8 out of 10 in terms of looks. Now, while I do talk a lot about men purposely trying to neg and humble and make us feel ugly and insecure so that we'll never leave them, so that they don't realize that we don't realize that we're the prize and we're doing all this stuff and they're getting all this stuff and we should be so grateful that they will settle for us. Like, we know, I talk about that all the time. And at the same time, if Anthony ever said, I am more beautiful than a supermodel, I wouldn't trust a word he said after that. Like, he tells me I'm beautiful all the time. And I'm like I don't think I'm like, not attractive to him. And so I really have to let myself get compliments. It's really hard for me to get compliments. But I just sit with it and I say thank you instead of being like, no. Because I used to just be like, bah! I'd just be like a superhero's like, poof, or like swatting them like a fly, like, now, oh, you're so, no, whatever. Oh my God, what's happening? I think a lot of women really struggle with compliments, and I think it's good to learn to just say thank you, right? But I also, if someone was like gassing me up too much, I'd be like, you know what I mean? And also, just so you know, anytime a man ever sent me a message on any of those apps and he was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, after me writing an amazing description about myself, I'm like, I don't care. You could literally say that to anybody and that doesn't make me feel good. Like, of course I want to be attractive, right? But don't say something you could literally say to anybody. You know what I mean? And somebody would be like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I'm like, tell me I'm smart and funny. That's actually what I care more about. Because one day, you may not actually find me as beautiful. Whatever, anyway. I got really upset. He claims that he was trying to make an unsuccessful joke and that he thinks I look great. Now, y'all know how I feel about men's jokes. They're usually punching down, or sometimes they reveal how this person really feels. And a lot of times they're a form of negging, and then they gaslight you because, oh, it's just a joke, right? But I'm just saying, the way that this story is set up, she herself admitted she was fishing for a compliment. I would never ask that question, rate me on 1 to 10. I wouldn't know how to answer that about him. She admitted that she knew she was fishing. And so I don't think anything he said would have gone over well. You know? If he had said 10, she would probably been like, you're lying. Anyway, I have a hard time seeing the humor. Okay, I get it. I don't like men's jokes when they're like weird, but also like, I don't know, like I wouldn't have asked him that. I told him he needs to make it up to me. He's done nothing. It's been more than 4 months and I'm having a really hard time with this. It's been 4 months. I've been taking it out on him by being extremely critical lately. Okay, y'all, do you see the problem here? 4 months of being extremely critical? If these genders were reversed and a man was being 4 months was being really critical as a form of punishment for an unfair question, I would call that abuse. So I just want to acknowledge that, like, I know that men can experience abuse, right? I don't think being extremely critical on purpose for 4 months to punish someone for answering a very bizarre and unfair question that is impossible to answer in the correct way, when you knowingly were fishing for this, to me, like, This right here is how you sabotage a relationship. I'm not a very secure person to begin. Here we go. I tell you all the time, don't date insecure men. I mean, everybody has insecurities. Everyone. Until the day I die, I'm always gonna be like, oh my God, right? Because she's got a lot to say, right? And even her, I understand she's trying to be protective, trying to, if I make fun of myself and criticize myself, sticks and stones can break my bones. I'll throw sticks and stones at myself. What's that saying? Hold on. But words can never hurt me. Is that how it goes? What a terrible saying. I have never questioned it till now. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Did a verbally abusive narcissist come up with that jingle? What? Words can hurt more. And this gets to my point. And I say this all the time. You will never convince me that emotional and financial abuse, whether it's verbally or like with your moods, is not physical abuse, because you will get sick. It impacts your health, it impacts your body, and also because you can't see bruises and you don't have to cover up black eyes and you don't have to lie about a broken bone to all your friends, it's a lot harder for you to realize that is abuse. So this Judge Judy is throwing sticks and stones at me all the time, and lots of words that do in fact hurt me. And that is because that makes it so that I'm more resilient. So that you can't hurt me. I hurt myself way more than you will ever hurt me. That's still true, honestly. I mean, isn't that true for most people? I don't know, maybe not. So don't date men who are really insecure. Again, every human being should have insecurities about something, or you're just delusional. Not should, but you just do. That's because you care. You want to learn and grow and be better, right? But being I'm not a very secure person to begin with, and knowing that, you should probably not be dating. The rare occasion that I actually went on dates or was interested in a healthy man before I ever really started dating, I even sabotaged those. I sabotaged crushes with healthy men, because a part of me was like, I am so messed up. I'm gonna destroy this person, or I am so messed up, they're gonna figure it out one way, so why don't I just blow this up now? Nobody gets hurt if I just screw this over before we get too close. Would you date you? I learned the hard way. When I realized that anytime I dated a guy who was unemployed, had just moved to this city or town or whatever that I lived in, was going through something really bad, that I probably should not date that person, because they are more vulnerable and probably feeling insecure, and they may not be the best partner because they're not in the best place to make good decisions. Learning that from men made me realize I need to apply that to myself. So anytime I moved to a new town or was between jobs or something was really messing with when my dad was dying, anytime where I was really not in a good place, I was very sensitive, all my insecurities were I didn't date, because that's how you end up in an abusive relationship. And that's also how you sabotage good ones, right? But most importantly, most women, and myself, that's how I ended up with that dude. I had just experienced the death of a friend. I had just a book proposal I had worked a year, maybe longer on, and I'd spent a lot of money hiring an editor for. It didn't sell. I had all these things happening that just destroyed my sense of security, sense of peace, my confidence. That is when I met, where is he? The hobosexual, this guy. And that man almost took my life. The dude who gave me the elk soup, that's him. And I was at my lowest is when I met him. That's how I fell into that. So don't date when you are not really working on this stuff, because women will use escapism in relationships to avoid ourselves the same way men will use relationships or hobbies or, marathon or whatever. We all do this. The same rules apply to us too. Are you dateable? Are you dateable now in this moment? That's something I really want more women to ask ourselves. That was a really hard lesson for me to learn. I was out there, not only, like, I wasn't planning on getting in a relationship with this dude. I thought we could just hook up and hang out. When you are at your lowest, I highly suggest centering yourself and your community and your relationships, your creativity, your whatever. But just step out for a little bit, because that is how you end up in the worst relationships, the most dangerous relationships that can literally take your life or hijack it for a long time. And please, look, if you feel comfortable sharing this, we moderate the comments, so there's no hate on here. Shout out to my moderators. Thank you so much. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about, because most of the women that I talked to who ended up in terrible relationships, when they think back to how they ended up marrying, and Therese, Therese, I had her on my life. I'm still trying to figure out how to edit this thing, y'all. It's coming. I'm going to show that soon. But my mutual Therese, my friend, she has shared that's how she ended up in her marriage. Is like, and so many women that I know, it's like when they think back, they're like, I actually met him when like there was something going on, or like something that like it was when I was in a moment of vulnerability where there's something with the family, something with a job, something with moving or whatever. In those moments, especially if you're feeling really lonely, like especially if you've just moved to a new town or something, don't date. That's how I ended up with that breadcrumb guy. I was just going to hook up with him, but I just moved to Lyon. And that thing was like months long. I was like, God, this guy's such a loser. Why do I like him so much? It's because I was just not in a place to be hooking up. I wasn't. I had just buried my dad. I just moved to a new country where I didn't know anybody. Just broke up with my boyfriend. Hanging out with other dudes, and I'm feeling like so vulnerable. Bad idea. Now, that also doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You will never be fully healed. So please don't think I'm saying that, you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. I will always hate myself on some level. I do think that saying can be dangerous, because that means that you can just never find, like, you have, because Liz is the one was like, Melanie, gosh, like, you are never going to be healed. Like, you've done enough work, and so don't take it so much to the extreme that you literally just avoid everything all the time, because you just never heal, because you're never going to be healed. But please lean more on the side of caution and safety, and really having a high standard and dating yourself and getting comfortable with being alone and loving your own company before you go out and date. Or just take a pause. You know what? For the next 6 months, I'm just going to tap out till I feel in a more secure, confident place where I'm not desperate for the validation of that text from him or whatever. Anyway, this is a long little rant, but it's important, I think. I'm not a very secure person to begin with, thus the fishing, because exactly that's what you're going to do. You're going to go fishing for compliments and setting yourself up to be disappointed and like really triggered. And if you have any daddy issues, I know I hate that phrase, but like if you have anything where like this man reminds you of somebody who you're like, I'm telling you, this is how you ruin relationships. And also just trust that if you are this like fear of like, what if I never meet him? Like, this is the thing that I think so many women screw their lives up, is this fear of like dying alone, or fear of not ever meeting him or whatever. And so they jump into like dating out of like all this internal pressure that was given to us from society. Even though we're not in a good place, it's like, yeah, but I TikTok. And I know some of that's biological and it's so not fair. But trust. I really had to trust that if I am meant to be with someone, that person will show up in the right time. But I'm not going to just go out here and willy-nilly dating anyone because I'm afraid that I'm going to miss my opportunity, because that is actually a sense of power and control that you think you have over life that you don't actually have. And trusting that, you know what, while I'm tapped out, this is actually would impact whatever relationship I am supposed to be in, if one. This time right now of focusing on my stuff will actually set me up to not destroy that if it ever comes across my path. So many women are dating because of, I can't turn 40 without this. I can't turn 25 or 30 without this. So even though I'm not in a good place, what if he's out there? What if he's at that, concert? You don't actually control that. You don't control destiny like that, or just the world. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense. Anyway, though I definitely consider myself attractive. See, then, if you know you're attractive, he wouldn't have married you probably, unless this is one of those other scenarios that I talk about all the time, but I'm trying to focus on what we can work on ourselves here. This is more about the red flags within us, because we have some. A red flag, working on our own red flags, because I talk a lot about looking for their red flags, but we also have to look for our own. Is this a red flag that I should not be here, or I should not be doing this? I should not be, you know what I mean? And if you're constantly fishing for a compliment, you gotta stop. You're setting yourself up to get in an unnecessary argument when you didn't even need it. You consider yourself attractive. This is literally like, I don't know much about that attachment style stuff, y'all. I don't know. I try not to subscribe too much to that stuff. I do think there's a lot of validity to the things I heard. This sounds like anxious attachment or something, but you're attractive. So you didn't need to do that. And unless he is using you for labor, unless he's all the things I warn you about, he probably finds you attractive. Men don't usually settle for women they don't find attractive. That seems to be really important to them. And all that we've been taught, it's not supposed to be important at all to us, which I also very much disagree with. We should be attracted to our partners. So that's another video. I don't know how I'm supposed to live the rest of my life with someone who could tell me I'm an 8 to him, even as a joke. I don't know how I'm supposed to live the rest of my life with someone who could tell me I'm an 8 to him, even as a joke. It's been 4 months, and she's like, divorce. I am telling you, my little trauma responses think that word all the time, and that's not what I want. But it is always in my ear, and that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with all of my stuff. So what do? I keep her in check by talking to people who know me well and can help me assess what is really going on, because I'm the flight risk. I'm the flight risk in our relationship. Which is funny, because the one relationship I should have not been in at all and should have flown away, I was like, I convinced myself to stay, right? But in healthy relationships, I'm the flight risk if I'm not working on myself. And this is her trying to run away and blaming it on him. He's otherwise a great husband, and he's been making an effort to compliment me a lot. Let's see, like he's trying to make up to it, and you're punishing him. But I have a hard time believing him. If he had said 10, you would have done all this stuff because he's a liar. Right? I'm saying this because I haven't done this, but I've done other versions of this in past relationships. I know this trick. It's self-sabotaging, and it's really unfair. Okay, let's see what Carolyn said. I'm feeling lost in DC too, but that could have something to do with how hard my keyboard just hit my forehead. Man, she is one of the only columnists who's just like, stop. Sometimes I try to be very thoughtful and considerate and kind in my feedback to people, but I also, because this works for me, sometimes I need someone to just be like, right? Throw a bucket of water in my face while I'm just like, oh, right? Sometimes I need really tough love to get it through my little noggin. For one thing, an 8 for most of us isn't just a compliment. It's sweet and awe-inspiring grade in inflation. And what you call fishing for compliments, I call picking a fight. Oh, bang, bang, bang. Or looking for drama where there isn't any. Okay, this is really important because I realize, because of my family system, that peace makes me really uncomfortable. As much as I, would love to think other people are like the drama, I'm the drama too. Because when things are peaceful, I'm like, ah! And this is like a trauma response. Especially if you come from abuse, like childhood SA or something else. The peace meant the drama was coming. Because let me tell you something, anyone who grows up in a house with an abuser, narcissist, someone who's doing stuff, whatever, there's the cycle of abuse. There's like all the things. And if you know one thing, especially about like narcissists and abusers and stuff, is that the peaceful time is never actually peaceful because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's one reason why I realized that peace I don't like, because that's when I don't know when it's coming. Peace is very scary. If you can relate to this, I'm sure you get it. If you can't relate to it, then good. But I am saying that it was really hard for me to understand and admit to myself that whenever I do actually feel safe, or just when there's no drama, there's no doom, impending doom, no big crisis I gotta take care of, I get very nervous. And so instead of waiting for it, I create a crisis. Realizing that really changed my life, and forcing myself to sit with peace. It used to not be enjoyable. Now I am, but that instinct to just, I swear it's so hard. So if you can relate to that, that may be something you need to work on in, therapy or some sort of group situation or whatever, because that stuff is literally going to blow up your relationships. When and if you find a healthy one, it will ruin your relationship and some of your friendships too, which again, what I say all the time, dating men under patriarchy, the stakes are so high. It's better to work some of this out first within community and friendships, and at work, practice unlearning this stuff. Maybe not at work. Okay, work, there's a big power dynamic, but in friendships and community, then with a romantic relationship, because these men, we know, they'll literally take our life or all of our money or whatever if we go into them with so much stuff we really need to deal with. Looking for drama where there isn't any. I think anyone who grew up in an unstable or just there's an addiction or narcissism, you know this. Right? You know exactly what this is. And it is actually a maladaptive, or like it's a trauma response or whatever. Like, I know why we do it, but this is what, things that helped us get through something can also be like ruin our lives as adults. Because as kids, we couldn't leave. Or asking someone to fill an unfillable hole. Yep. Y'all said, like I said, we really need to start looking at relationships as addictions, because there's a reason why some women and men, but a lot of people, they just go from one to the next, 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 because they don't know who they are. And they've never explored that. And then if you get with a man, then you get baby trapped, and you will literally be so busy doing so much labor, you'll never have a chance to explore. Who are you? What do you want? What do you like? Until the kids are grown or you divorce them. None of these is the work of a healthy adult. Oh, cold. Oh, Carolyn, that's cold, but it's right on. That's why I like Carolyn. I like her. In your months of anguish, have you given any thought to the thankless job you've given your husband? He chose to marry you. Oh, wow. Your good marriage says he still loves you, and to thank him, you set him up to fail, because that's what you did. Punish him mercilessly when he does, then scoff at his tries to make peace. Exactly. Like, we don't have the whole story here, but the parts that she included, and we're still only getting her side. The fact that she said that he has been trying so hard to make it up for her, that says a lot. This man listens to her. He loves her, and she is blowing up her marriage. She can't get out of her own way, right? Carol, wow. As you worry about living the rest of your life with Mr. He called me an 8. I wonder how long y'all have to worry about him. You'll have. Alienation of affection goes both ways. And with your beating him down the way you are, your husband might eventually tire of being in a marriage where everything he says is wrong and his love isn't deemed credible. And that's the thing. See, this is the trick the ego plays. I have caught myself doing this in relationships. So she said, oh, I bet he doesn't love me. He doesn't find me attractive. I know I'm attractive. I'm sure he says it, but she set him up for this. And then if she doesn't get over this and deal with this and stop making it a him problem, she's going to because the ego is so good at this, y'all. It is brilliant. It went to Harvard Law and has a bullhorn, whereas the intuition is like a whisper. And the bullhorn, you're always going to hear more. And the bullhorn's like, he doesn't love you. He thinks you're ugly. He doesn't love you. Even when he says all this stuff, he doesn't mean it. And so when she eventually blows up her marriage and chases this man away because he finally is like, I can't take this anymore, her ego is going to be able to say, see, I was right. He didn't love you. He didn't find you attractive. And now you have all the proof in the world because he left you. I would rather be wrong than be right and miserable. Of course I want to be right, but I love when I'm proven wrong, right? Because this is the ego is literally going to say, that asshole didn't love me. La, 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 la. Because she can't see all this because she's in her own way. Oh, Carolyn. You openly admit you're insecure, and I certainly don't mean to pile on. However, you are using your vulnerability as a get out of responsibility free card. Boom. Boom. For your cruelty to your husband. Exactly. What she's doing is cruel. 4 months of knowingly. She knows what she's doing. It's not like she's like, why am I being so mean to him? She knows what she's doing. That makes it worse. You have high expectations of your husband's behavior, but low expectations of your own. There we go again. Would you date you? Would you marry you? How is that fair? Compassionate partners reverse that formula for each other and are tough on themselves while cutting their mates a break. Now, I would say that women do this too much in general. This is how we end up gaslighting ourselves into terrible relationships, but that doesn't mean it doesn't apply to us. I am so hard on Anthony sometimes. And I'm really glad I have a support system of people who are like, wait a second, you're being really unfair. So that I don't go and say really harsh things that are uncalled for and not fair. When they talk about fighting fair, this is what we're talking about. You don't do a below the belt punches because you're triggered. You got to learn how to deal with those trauma responses. You got to learn how to see when you're projecting something and it's not even about him. You know what I mean? And I would also add that one of the most enlightening things I realized, it was very hard to realize this, is that because of my family system, relationships to me were about power. And every time I was like, who has the upper hand now? That is, you got to get out of that thinking. That is not healthy. Anytime I catch myself being like, see, I have the upper hand now, I'm like, whoa, I don't want an upper hand. And it's usually I've got a list of things. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about unhealthy relationships. I'm talking about partnerships, that it is a partnership. I will do this if I don't keep myself in check. Please recognize how you've cornered and punished your husband over these long months. Please admit it to him and apologize. And please consider getting professional guidance, here we go, on exploring and repairing your deep insecurities. It's not fair to ask the people in our lives, not even the innermost circle of our loved ones, to fix every bad thing we feel inside. Boom! Some things we have to fix ourselves. And this goes back to what I was saying. Some things, a lot of things we have to fix ourselves, but a lot of those things come up in relationship. We didn't even know we had to fix this thing until this person comes up. And I'm like, God, where? And then I'm like, okay, it's like I learn, it's like okay, now I need to work on this, right? But please don't think that it's your partner or your best friend or someone else's job to fix your insecurity. And that's why I say men who are insecure, they will try to make you fix it, and it might literally ruin your life doing so. And when we do this with men, we get in either unhealthy terrible relationship, or we destroy a good one and we become the awful person. Also, follow my Patreon. Et voila!